It's always a pleasure to bring you Politics Today on independent television and radio. Today, by the way, is not an exception. Thank you so much for keeping a date with us on the program. Very interesting discussions on the program, and we hope you stay with us all the way. Let's begin with the recent development in Afghanistan. Last Sunday, we saw the end of the Afghan government, which of course has been assisted and projected, developed and groomed and supported by the US-led forces. But that has become history, so to speak, because we know that the Taliban has taken full control of the country. Of course, the last part of the country that was left to be taken was the capital, Kabul, which of course fell last Sunday. Questions are coming forth as to the timing of the withdrawal of the United States forces, which some said is largely responsible for the fall of Afghanistan again into the hands of the Taliban. There are also concerns that this has dire consequences in the fight against global terrorism. These and lots more we'll be looking at on the program. We'll cascade down a little bit to look at a recent development in Edo State where a certain individual was alleged to have been given a letter to become the Sultan of Shua Arabs in Edo State. And once the picture surfaced on social media, tongues started wagging, reactions started trailing it until they changed the name from Sultan to Saki or whatever the name is. And Edo State government has already issued a press statement in that direction. And just yesterday, the faceless group, so to speak, also issued a press statement pledging their loyalty to the Omonoba of Benin, Oba Ewai II. But in spite of these actions, we're looking at what may have informed this action. What is the wider implications that may have informed this action? We'll also be asking all of these questions and try to provide answers to them. As usual, our studio number will be open so you can call and be part of the discussion. We'll try dig deep and we'll dug deep, so to speak, and brought on board two very analytical minds to help us make sense of our conversations today on the program. Let me thank very especially Neville Obagedo, is a political scientist and a public affairs commentator. Neville, thank you for joining us on the program.
Good morning, viewers at home. ITV, thank you for having me this great Saturday morning.
I also want to thank the programs officer of Foundation for Good Governance and Social Change, Comrade Christopher Ojekere. Chris, thank you for coming.
Thank you, Sonny. Good morning, viewers.
Okay, let me begin with Neville. Could you please lay the foundation for what has happened in Afghanistan 20 years down the line, trillions of dollars down the line, and we are here now with the Taliban back in full control of the country, in spite of their earlier promises that things will be different from what they used to be known for. The feelers coming there, the reports coming there, I mean, is a reflection of what the Taliban has always been known for. Neville.
Yeah. First, a point of departure in assessing the crisis in Afghanistan just now is to delve into the history of how Afghanistan came into existence. The Islamic Republic of Afghanistan is consisting of about 6 major ethnic groups. There are other minority groups. The major ethnic groups, they trace their origin to Pakistan, one of the neighbors of Afghanistan. Another major group trace their origin to Uzbekistan, another neighboring country to Afghanistan. The next major group, the Turks, or the Turkish people, they trace their origin to Turkmenistan, another country that's having border with Afghanistan. And then you have other groups. So Afghanistan is surrounded by way of a geographical location. It's like the crossroads of the Asia continent, and is bordered by China, especially the regions of Xinjiang and Uyghur. These are regions of China that are also dominated by Muslims. And when you trace the origin to Sunni Muslim or Sunni fashion of Islam. If you go to the next neighbor, Tajikistan is predominantly a Muslim country, predominantly Sunni Muslim. If you go to Uzbekistan, the same thing, Sunni Muslim, predominantly Muslim nation. Then you go to Iran, you go to Pakistan. All these countries surrounding Afghanistan, they are predominantly Muslim and they subscribe to the Sunni version of Islam.
Okay.
Now, Afghanistan has been part of the old Ottoman Empire, old Persian Empire, under Alexander the Great, before various sultanates were established that led to the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan as we have it today. Now, the crisis that we are having now, the foundation was laid by the United States and the defunct Union of Soviet Socialist Republic, which is USSR. During the Cold War, the period of ideological war between them. Then Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, Tajikistan, Kazakhstan, all those countries, they were still part of Russia. So they were not countries of their own. So Afghanistan was actually having neighbors like Pakistan, like China, like Iran, and the Soviet Union. But now, since the Soviet Union is now divided into various countries, you now have many countries around Afghanistan that have vested interest because their ethnic groups, their relations, their relatives
are in Afghanistan.
Are in Afghanistan.
Okay.
So one way or the other, they are supporting Afghanistan. But let's come to the issue of America and the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
The Soviet government under Nikita Khrushchev or Brezhnev, they instigated a coup in that country and established a socialist government. And that was going to now affect and influence negatively America's sphere of influence in that axis. So America also sponsored a group they call Mujahideen to counter Soviet influence in Afghanistan and in that region. So today, after all the crises that followed the civil war, some persons left, about 1.something million Afghans left for Iran, 2.something million left for Pakistan. Those who went to Pakistan, because the largest boundary between Pakistan and the largest boundary between any nation and Afghanistan is the Pakistan axis.
Okay.
So those who left Afghanistan and went to Pakistan, they went to Islamic schools.
Okay.
And they had to now conscientize themselves along the Sunni version of Islam to launch a Taliban group, to launch this Taliban organization. And they are saying that they want to subscribe to the Quranic assumption about Sharia rule. And Sharia, as it is defined in the Quran, is not only talking about religious aspect of human life. It's talking about the economic aspect, their political aspect, their social relations. And so when you hear that there's a Sharia system in place, you should know that Sharia system, if care is not taken, can come and knock on your door to be involved in your family affairs if you look at it critically. And so that is the situation that Afghans find themselves before the Taliban were able to now establish a government. From 1996, they established a government, very repressive government, a government they said was based on Sharia, and they were so brutal. If the Japanese were to describe the situation the Afghans find themselves under Taliban rule, they will say it was a kamikaze type of lifestyle that could be compared to the atomic bomb that was dropped by America on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And America just felt that they could not fold their hands and allow this to happen because of the effect we have on the world, especially that Afghan government under Taliban provided a safe haven for Osama bin Laden and his men that launched an attack on America
September 11
on 9/11,
okay,
and reduced that powerful building to ground zero. And so America decided to go there, not just because they wanted to establish a system of government that is democratic or a capitalist system of government. They actually wanted to caution the effect of a Taliban-like of government, a Taliban-like government in other parts of the world, especially countries that have a large population of Muslims. And we saw the other day that when Boko Haram started, they said this is their headquarters in Yobe State. They said that is Nigeria or Africa Taliban. And so this is the situation that the world finds itself. This is the situation that Afghans find themselves.
Would you say America succeeded?
Yes, I cannot say America succeeded because what happened here is that in the first instance, when the Soviet came, America came to establish Mujahideen.
Yeah.
The Taliban is an offshoot of the Mujahideen.
Yeah.
Because most of the people who ran away from Afghanistan as Mujahideen during the Civil War, they came back as Taliban.
Okay, let me pause
so
you there.
America gave them money, gave them weapons, and trained them, including Osama bin Laden.
Yeah.
And now, what happened in Afghanistan, what is happening right now is that America came, wanted to change their culture, wanted to change their religion, wanted to change their way of life. And that is what we call, in political analysis, that's what we call a clash of civilization. The people, that was defined by Samuel Titin in some of his papers. Now, what is happening there is that the Afghan people, when the Americans came, they said they want to demobilize. They want to demobilize Taliban. If you are a Taliban, you want to repent, you can come and join the armed forces, you can come and join the police. And many Afghans who were Taliban decided to drop their arms to be integrated to the armed forces and the police of Afghanistan. They were enemies with him. And they allowed them to take over the country now. So when you are hearing that the Taliban took over, the Taliban were systematically integrated to the army and to the police.
And they worked against the government.
They worked against it. They were just waiting for an opportunity one day for the America to leave so that they can take over the government of their country.
Let me pause you there. Chris,
what is happening there?
What do you make of the timing of departure of America from Afghanistan? We know that under President Donald Trump, even under President Barack Obama, Donald Trump, and now Joe Biden, this has been in the works. And U.S. is largely being criticized for what is happening in Afghanistan. What are your thoughts?
Now, we are looking at the Western liberalism because Joe Biden is a complete epitome of Western liberalism and Western defined civility and governance. We are looking at that against pragmatic governance, in quote, with certain levels of departure from that Western liberalism. And this is what I mean. We are looking at Donald Trump's style of governance and of handling international relations and handling pragmatic threats that threaten certain, civilized existence, like the Taliban terrorism, the Al-Qaeda terrorism, the ISIS terrorism, as against the attitude of the President Joe Biden, who is an epitome of Western liberalism. The truth is that Western liberalism do not have the solution to radicalism and fundamentalism that you find in these Asian countries or Arab countries and within the Muslim community. They do not have it. Because, you see, governance should be pragmatic. Donald Trump thought that desperate situations require desperate measures. And then he had the big stick. If you behaved well, I don't have any problem with you. But if you think you can be a problem to the world, then the only language you understand is the language of strength. I'm going to exercise that strength. I have the responsibility to do so. But conformity came and said that Trump has polarized the world too much. He wants to heal the entire world. And that is why he did not do his proper investigation and homework. And then took a dive and pulled out America from Afghanistan. Today, in the very short time, as he rightly analyzed, you had the Taliban government, it was never extinct. It was never obliterated. What they did was to do a tactical retreat into the society and into the military and into the police force of the government. And you had some who were in the northern Pakistani area who were always troubling the legitimate government of Afghan. So tactically, it was ill-conceived and very poorly executed. And that is why, as soon as it happened, Donald Trump said to him, he should blame himself for what is happening in Afghanistan. And whether you like it or not today, we now have a full-fledged country in the hand of a brutal fundamentalist terrorist. So what is America going to do about that now? That's the question. I want to also tell you that the reason why we had always wanted such things prevented is because terrorists don't operate in isolation. It's a network of evil ideologies spread around the world. They are networking, they are planning, and they are spreading, and they are working on it every single day. I am not surprised that while that was going on in Afghanistan, somebody here in Benin, immediately, if you go and look at the same Muslim persuasion, the Sunni which he referred to, even our president belongs to the Sunni persuasion of Islam. So I am not surprised that while that was going on in Afghanistan, somebody here in Benin poked his hands on our faces by crowning or purporting to crown another Oba over our kingdom and over our people in our own land without our notice.
But he didn't say Oba. What we heard, Sultan or Shua Arabs in Edo State. That's what was said.
The only coronation recognized in the Edo tradition is the coronation of the Oba.
Okay.
So any other form of coronation that refuses to recognize that and then goes ahead to say you want to do that is poking your hands in our eyes. Now I'm just telling you that I don't see it as a coincidence, and I'll tell you why. When Salman Rushdie wrote his satanic verses that concerned Denmark, he wrote it around the Middle East and then escaped to Denmark. Nigerian Muslims were busy in the northern part of Nigeria killing themselves over Salman Rushdie's satanic verses. Every time you have an international, when the one Bin Laden killed, no, the one, what's his name, Donald Trump killed, one of their general, Hufuni or something, when he killed him the other day, Nigerian Muslims were protesting here. So I am not surprised that when they had that tactical victory and psychological victory over the forces of good and righteousness, because these fundamentalists represent the forces of evil and destruction. When they had that victory in Afghanistan, somebody here decided to test the water in the heartbeat of the Nigerian nation, because the Nigerian nation is central and significant to fundamentalist quest. Nigeria being the largest population in Africa, being the largest economy in Africa, they see it as something they must achieve and add to their expansionist agenda. So if they're able to achieve Nigeria, where do you start? You start with the heartbeat, in the center of the cosmopolitan meat. This is where we all converge in Nigeria, in Benin, in Edo State. So they came here to try and test the water. And I'm happy with the way we reacted to it.
Okay.
The point I am making is that if America continues to pretend about this, their finance and civility that is not producing results, they should begin to allow room for certain innovation into governance that will solve problems. Look at Britain. Britain is already taking over. Britain is taking over. Now, Canada is almost taking over. The Canadian president had to put down his feet. The Australian president had to put down his feet. But Britain cannot do that today. There's too much allowance. They come here and begin to dictate to you even what you will cook for them to eat in the universities and so on and so forth. So the point is that in Nigeria, especially in the southern part of Nigeria, we have to be very, very vigilant and active and not pretend that this thing does not exist. It's an evil agenda. It has brains all over the world, working out its network and working out its agenda and their procedures. We must be alive to this, and then we must respond to it appropriately.
Nabil, is there any way this Afghan issue could have been avoided, particularly the role that the U.S. played 20 years down the line, since 2002, over $140 billion spent on reconstruction and what have you, just to be able to get this far and then they've pulled out. Someone also fingered former President Barack Obama for having to swap about 5 senior leaders of the Taliban who were incarcerated at the time for a certain U.S. soldier that was captured. Incidentally, one of those 5 leaders of Taliban led the forces that took over the capital in recent times. So what do you make of the approach? What could have been done differently to avoid it? Or it was just something that was bound to happen?
First and foremost, it is said that those who fail to learn from history are condemned to repeating history. America went to Vietnam and failed. I expected the present leadership of America to go and study the situation then and what led to their failure and learn from it. America went to Iraq and failed in Iraq. I expected the current leadership of America to go and study the situation then in Iraq and what led to America's failure. And then America went to Afghanistan and also failed. Now, the first thing that I will have to say is that in political analysis, there's what we call political culture and political socialization. It is from here that the cultural heritage of a people, their prestige, is entrenched. And so people that have a culture that be given to them, transmitted from one generation to another for maybe 1,000 years. Then you now want to come in 20 years to want to rewrite or outright the history of a people because of your hegemony or because of your influence. It doesn't work, because upon the tables of the heart of the people is written their culture. And they have been taught that when their culture is annihilated, when their culture is obliterated, then their human essence is worthless. And so they pretend to be with you if they know that they cannot overpower you because of your influence, because of your military might, and so on. They pretend to be with you. Yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. After you have entrenched yourself here, for the number of period will be here, you will leave and will come back in full force. That was what happened in Afghanistan, or that is what is happening in Afghanistan. Now, talking about the exchange of Taliban leaders for an America. America is a country that have a well-defined national interest. They can use anything to safeguard the life of an American, wherever the American is trapped all over the world. So the leaders of America under Barack Obama, they felt that because protection of life and property of the American citizen is a core interest under national interest. So if it is exchange of Taliban leaders for the safety of that American soldier, so be it. That is their national interest. They have defined it and they have just executed it. Now, what the Americans should understand is that, like, they have their own democracy, their liberalism, their capitalism to export to other parts of the world. They should know that it is not all parts of the world that will accept their democracy, that will accept their capitalism. If you trace the history of the Ottoman Empire, the Persian Empire, that Afghanistan have been part of, and the Islamic culture, they predated the United States as a country. And so the culture, the way of life has been transmitted from generation to generation to the Afghans. And for America to come one day to say whether there's Taliban or no Taliban, the Afghans will normally be a Muslim-dominated society. Okay. Because around them, Islam is dominating. Yeah. Whether in Iraq, whether in Iran, whether in Pakistan, whether in all the other countries that we have mentioned just now. But the lesson that America is supposed to learn is that you have to enter into a relationship with a country because of your own interest. And in the course of trying to negotiate that interest, whether it's its economic interest, whether it's political interest, whether it's its cultural interest or technological interest, it is in an attempt to enter into agreement, bilateral agreement, multilateral agreement, you will now bring your own conditions. As we are speaking here, they are meeting in Doha now. American government on one side, Taliban on the other side, the outgoing government of Taliban.
Ashraf Ghani.
Yes, on the other side. They are discussing a peaceful transition of power. This peaceful transition of power could have been contained in America-Afghan relations. If you want us to relate with you, Taliban government, drop your repression.
Okay.
The world has gone beyond restricting women and females.
Okay.
Not to be enlightened. But this is anti-Sharia. So look for a way to accommodate women.
And balance it
Yes,
up.
but if you come and say that because in America women are given freedom, girls are given freedom, you want Afghans to accept the same freedom.
Hook, line, and sinker.
Yes, hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah.
There will be conflict.
Okay.
And it is the conflict of cultures, the clash of cultures, that is responsible for the failure of America in Vietnam, the failure of America in Iraq, and the failure of America right now in Afghanistan. Okay. But more importantly, I want to say that America is trying to, one of the reasons why America is trying to tactically even withdraw from Afghanistan is not necessarily because of Taliban or no Taliban. The politics of the world is being redefined. The other day, President Xi Jinping of China came up to say that Asia belongs to Asians, and the Western Hemisphere through the Pacific Ocean belong to the Asians, and Asia should be allowed to dominate that area. That is a message to America that the support they have for Taiwan, the support they have for South Korea, the support they have for other countries around the archipelagos is being threatened by China, that is rising as an hegemon that is competing with America after the collapse of the Soviet Union.
Okay.
And so America is trying to study the situation and redirect its foreign policy towards that China rising influence.
Okay. Chris,
yes.
You know, people have talked about the implications of the rise of the Taliban in Afghanistan. Promises have been made that, well, with their coming back, it's not business as usual. There's a redefinition of how they do things. They're going to take care of women, they're going to take care of children and stuff like that. But we are hearing now that those interpreters, those who work with NATO, who work with the US forces and other allied forces, they are being hunted down. Isn't that a contradiction? And what is the implications of all of these in the fight against terrorism? Because I heard someone say, look, with the victory of Taliban, it's going to embolden many of these countries and these groups who are sympathetic towards this cause.
You know, one of the big problems we have in the world is my good friend here, political scientists. They do their analysis on the basis of the scientific, as political scientific, situations. I'm doing my analysis on the basis of terrorism and its networking, on the ideology of Islamic fundamentalism, which is a reality in our world today, and which is destroying lives, and will continue to destroy lives as long as they sell to us that fraud of having what you may refer to as a political culture that is different from every other sane human being's cultural coexistence. And then, what is culture in killings and destructions? They don't have a culture. The truth of the matter is that go and look at every country that is ruled by fundamentalists. The culture you find is the culture of killing, of oppression, of emasculation. That's the culture you find. And that culture is evil. And the rest of the world is saying that culture is not a culture. If it's a culture, an evil culture, it shouldn't exist. Now, they may say all they can, all they want to say about, changing styles and becoming more amenable and all of that. The fact is, the government that took over the legitimate government of Afghan, what was their motive? There was a legitimate government in place. Do you have to replace that government? The people that replaced that government, the Taliban, they have their ideology. Now, in the first time they came, the whole world saw the ideology. He likened it to the bomb that was dropped in Hiroshima in terms of its brutality and fiery destruction. Now, they are telling us that they are born again overnight. And that is the same thing they are selling in Nigeria. When they tell you of repentant Boko Haram, what happened in Afghanistan is just about to play out here. These Afghanistans that have taken over the government today are the so-called repentant Taliban. The Mujahideens, as he said, who claim to have been repentant, they recruited from the Mujahideens, who were already trained into Taliban. And then when Taliban fell, they said, okay, America absolved us, we have repented. They were absolved. And then they are the people, that's why without any effort, they overthrew a legitimate government. It is a step. We must give that to them, that they've taken a leap into their agenda. Their agenda is to spread such fundamentalism. They become in any names. Whether they come in Afghanistan or Taliban, or they come in Boko Haram, ICC, SWAP, whatever name that they call, the core objective is to destroy human lives and property, take over territories, and impose Islamic Emirates on every country they're able to take. It is the jihad, pure, short, and simple, all over again. Now, they want the world to accept that. As he said, America is weary. They want to rush back and check. I mean, America is drawn from outside. COVID-19, the economy is tattered and everything. So there is no more grandstanding. Everybody is trying to reorganize. So America just wants to leave. Not because of the fact that America believes or should believe the principle that the Taliban has changed overnight. But because they are weary, they want to give that excuse. Well, let us just negotiate, on the negotiating table, and we will draw back to our country, and whatever they do with themselves, well, we can begin to talk from America. That's what is going on. And I am saying that that shouldn't be allowed. Now, you are going to see that countries around the world, especially Nigeria, my country, terror groups are going to be emboldened because they have just been told by this very act that if you stay 20 years long enough, you can mobilize and you can replan and you can take over the government. And then you are reading again what I'm reading on your screen now, that Buhari has just permitted 300 and permitted the 25 states to go and begin to look for 300 and something grazing routes. These people are at it and they are working at it from all corners. And the whole idea is expansion of that agenda. Okay, let me pause it there.
I come to you, Nabil. Nabil, I know you've got some comments to make along the lines of what's happening, what has happened in Afghanistan. Already there's a meeting. How that meeting will turn out or what that meeting will bring about, I really don't know. But the fact remains that the Taliban is now in charge of Afghanistan. Against that background, do you see anything positive from the meeting that is ongoing in Doha between the Taliban, the US, and the armed Afghan government led by the exiled Ashraf Ghani, as it were?
Well, it is a sorry pass, and I feel like weeping for the world because, like the Taliban said, as soon as they took over the palace, the presidential palace, I was watching them live when they were being interviewed. They said if there were to be a government in Afghanistan, they would have negotiated with the government. But right here, they are at the palace. Which government are they going to negotiate with? So nobody to negotiate with. So what is happening in Doha is just a mere cosmetic meeting that will not produce any result. Because the same Taliban that will be telling the world that we are going to be a moderate Taliban will not be as brutal as before. Recently, some hours ago, a police chief was executed by Taliban. It died like a commissioner of police in the state. They blindfolded him, took him to outskirts of the town. He spoke. After that, he was executed by the Taliban. That is a sign to tell you that the rebranded Taliban is going to be more repressive than the Taliban that was there before the coming of the Americans. And the question you should ask me is about the lessons that we are to learn from it, whether in Edo State, whether in Nigeria. And I will come to that just now. I've listened and I've read about the purported plan to coronate a sultan of Shua Arab in Edo State. The question is, do we have Shua Arabs in Edo State? The answer is no. If we have them, where are they? Now, as the Edo State government described it, it's going to be an affront on the tradition, the custom of the people of Edo State. When I read about the greatness of Edo, especially the old Benin Kingdom, I used to beat my chest anywhere I go to around the world that are from Edo, that the blood of the likes of Obavorame flows in my vein, because I knew how they resisted imperialism, whether it was English imperialism, whether it was Islamic imperialism. And right now, for somebody to try to test the waters, to use the language of my co-discussor here, because of what is happening in Afghanistan and other parts of the world.
But there's no way we can link both together. It could just be a shared coincidence.
Yes, we can link them. We can link them by the analysis of the political space in Nigeria, and how enemies of the state that will go and blow up a school, kill people, go to a police headquarters, blow up the police headquarters, and the person will now come and tell you that he is repented. Then you now recruit that person, take to Nigeria Defense Academy. You recruit the person, take to Army Depot for training. You recruit the person, put in the Nigerian Air Force to fly jet. You recruit the person, put in the Nigerian Navy. You recruit the person, put in the police force. A person that supposed to be in a psychiatric home, receiving treatment to check the capacity of the brain to exist in a normal human society. You carry the person and give the person weapons. A person that was not even trained as a military personnel, who could handle weapons and kill. We kill soldiers, behead them, kill security men, destroy communities. Even little children, if you see the way they kill them, you wonder whether these ones were born the way you were born, and whether they were giving you orientation the way you were giving orientation. And then all of a sudden, they just tell you they have repented. What kind of repentance? And you recruit them. It, to me, and I align myself with the reason of my co-discussor, that it is a foundation, a grand foundation of the danger that is ahead of us as a country. And unless we wake up and begin to define, discover, and recover our territories, a day shall come that we'll be looking for how to escape from our country, like the Afghans are doing right now in Afghanistan. Again, it is a sorry past. Now, coming to the issue of a coronation in Edo State, and I've read that they said they are apologizing, they are suspending, they said they are suspending to cancel the proposed coronation. Such people, if I were to be part of those that take decision for Edo State, they are supposed to be declared persona non grata. It will take the next 1 hour. They should leave this state, because they are enemies of the state. They want to set the state on fire. And if you go and trace their telephone conversation and their bank transaction, you may link them up with criminals that we find in our forest. And so something has to be done. And I hope that those that control Edo State, they are watching this program, they are listening to this program. They should recover Edo State from criminal elements who are from other parts of the country, or even from other parts of West Africa, who are coming here in the name of one business or the other, in the name of freedom, and they are coming here to take over our land. Our leaders, traditional rulers and political leaders, should check their local governments right now, especially local governments that have boundary with a neighboring state. You start with Kobaoka, you will see non-EDGs who are there. Is anybody concerned about the activity that they are engaging? Whether it's a systematic study of how to overthrow the place. We have an assignment in our hands that we should not be beaming our searchlights on Afghanistan alone. We should look into our country and see how we can save this country from the crisis that is comparable to what is happening in Afghanistan from happening here. Okay. Thank you.
Let's get you to deepen our conversations on this botched coronation of Sultan of Shua Arabs in Edo State. Of course, we heard now, when the news first came out, it was Sultan of Shua Arabs in Edo State. And then when the reaction now became momentous, it changed to Seriki Shua Arabs in Edo State. And then I'm asking the question. At the first instance, you probably would just think it's a social media buzz. But the moment that transformation took place of Seriki Shua Arab, then people now began to take it seriously. Chris, did you feel that same way too?
Yeah, I will start with this question. Are there Shua Arabs in Edo State? Shua Arabs. Are there Shua Arabs in Edo State? There are no Shua Arabs in Edo State. The closest to Shua Arabs in Edo State are the Fulanis. Maybe among the Fulanis, they'll be able to distinguish between those who are the Kanuris. Now, we have other tribes living in Edo State. Edo State is a cosmopolitan melting point of the nation. And you have all other tribes living here. Why don't we have tension with them and from them? And that is why it's telling you that you cannot disconnect it. We cannot disconnect it because the particular people in question have precedences and antecedents. And we are students of our history. We know that these people came from the Futajalon Islands. We know the history of northern Nigeria. We know the history of the Junkus, the Tiv, the history of all the other tribes that make up the Nupes and so on and so forth in northern Nigeria. And then we know the history of southern Kaduna and the name Zango Kataf and Zango, which we use for abattoir here, what it means and how they took over southern Kaduna. We know the history of Jos Plateau. We know the history of Taraba. And then the recent history of Benue and the resistance of the governor of Benue. We are not going to continue to pretend. We're going to analyze situations that we see. And then what is happening now did not start from the Rialto Hotel. It started from the forest. The people that man is purporting to now be head over are these people who have been killing our women in the forest and raping our women and killing our children and our farmers in the forest. Why food is expensive in Edo State, then why people cannot farm in Isha forest, farm in Ovia forest, farm in any forest in Nigeria for that matter. So it is those people now that want to have an urban. He's not talking of another set of people. It is those set of people that they want to crown in Edo land. And in any case, there is a law governing the state. For a set of people to have undermined that law, you don't start after you do an act before you begin to visit the law. It just tells you that you have already declared yourself a law unto yourself. That is why you did not start by going through the law, because you know that what you want to do is clandestine. People who wait calls to the telephone number of the so-called spokesperson that was presiding over that situation. Up to now, we don't know the name of the spokesperson. He refused to declare his identity. So what is going on was clandestine. If it was open, if the intentions were genuine, you go through the law. You didn't go through the law. You undermined the traditional authority of over 1,000 years. You undermine the democratically elected government and our laws. And to say you want to, and they use the word Sultan. Now, whatever other explanations they are making, they have the language, they use the word, and it was used with intentment. So the point we are making is that you have Igbos here, you have Yorubas here, you have Benues, you have TV, you have all sorts of tribes. We are living together in peace. We are hospitable, but that doesn't mean that we have, by any stretch of any imagination, ever lost consciousness that our ancestral land, our home, is our own. And we are not going to allow anybody come by any guise, take any inch of Edo's ancestral land. That is what we are saying. Okay. Yes, and we are saying that if you are going to have to live here, you live within the ambit of the law and you live peacefully. And the position of the Edo State government on this. Yeah. Yeah, the position of the Edo State government is what I've just said. Okay. The Edo State government is a government that was duly elected by the Federal Republic's Constitution, Federal Republic of Nigeria's Constitution. And then he quoted the law. I read the letter. The letter quoted the relevant section of the Constitution and quoted the laws of Edo State, guiding traditional institutions and so on and so forth.
Okay.
And then it was only after that that these people started to write now, to write to address that law and say we are law abiding. If we were law abiding, we would have followed the law.
Okay.
Yes. So we don't have any land for anybody to take, and we don't have any other Oba or any other Sultan Oba, whatever name, in our land. Okay.
If you just join us, it's State Politics today on independent television and radio. Our studio number is 052-290-573. Dial that number right now, right away, and let's get your views and opinions on our discussion so far. Please, like we always say on the program, avoid calling names and casting aspersion on anyone. Be civil in your language and go straight to the point and be as brief as possible. Always remember to turn down your audio level on television or radio to remove the echo so we can hear you loud and clear. Remember, do not cast aspersion on anyone. No names calling. Go straight to the issue that we have discussed, and let's get your views and opinion expressed. Let me get the view. Now, what's your expectation in all of this with all the reactions that have trailed it and stuff like that?
My expectation is that, as I said earlier, that they should be declared persona non grata and they should apologize to the people of Edo State because of that affront on our tradition and on the government, attempting to overthrow the government of Edo State. That is the way I will put it.
Okay, let me just take this call. Hello, caller. Good morning.
Hello, good morning. This is Mr. Chadwick. I'm calling from Downton.
You're calling from where?
I'm calling from Downton.
Okay, Chadwick, go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
Hello, sir.
Yes, go ahead. Go.
Okay, I want to say that my contribution is that Islam for me is not the problem. It's not the problem with the Afghan situation. I think it's the persons who practice the religion infuse part of their culture into Islam. Because in Islam, women have rights. Going to the religion of Islam, women have rights, not even only in education, both in education and inheritance, even in inheritance.
Okay.
So it's not the Islam that is the problem. It's those who, many people who practice the religion, even down here in our country, they infuse part of their own repressive culture about women into, the religion. And that is what, and other things, that brings terrorism. Okay. And that is it. That's my contribution. So I just want to clear that point. I'm a Muslim, and women have rights to be whatever they want to be and inherit whatever they want to. So let me clear that point.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you for those views canvassed. Tell us your name, where you're calling from, and go ahead. Hello, caller. Good morning.
Yeah. Hello, good morning.
Yes.
My name is Comrade Abbey. I'm calling from Benin.
Comrade Abbey, go ahead.
I just want to thank your panelists over there. I love the analysis that they're giving.
Thank you.
So I just want to say thank you to the state government for bringing out the press statement. You understand? Because for now, there could have been a lot of issues going on. So I just want to say it's absolutely wrong. We are not in support of all those things they are doing. But the state government have already bring out their press release.
Okay.
It's a nice one. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Comrade Abbey. Hello, caller. Good morning. What's your name? Please turn down the audio level on your TV or radio to remove the echo.
Hello?
Yes, good morning. What's your name? Yes, good morning.
My name is Shaibu. I'm calling from as well.
Shaibu, please go ahead.
I think I want to express the way they believe, the way they do, the way they educate, sell political. They should be cautious.
Okay.
You don't sell like that in close relations. Go to jobs. You see how what makes people talk about their state. Because they are selling land for them in close relations. And when you do that, you are creating people for that area. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your contribution. 052-290-573 is the studio number. Tell us your name, caller, and where you're calling from, and go ahead. Hello, caller. Good morning. Good morning. What's your name and where you calling from?
I'm calling from Jamaica.
Okay, Babaha, go ahead, please. What's your name?
Yeah, my contribution concerning that shy Arab side,
Yeah.
I want the state government to take proper level, drastic action on that, because that is how they start before they become a violent state.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Hello, caller. Good morning. What's your name? What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hello.
Yes. Good morning. What's your name? Yeah. Good morning.
Morning. Morning. This is Osas. I'm calling from Adwawa.
Osas, go ahead.
Yes, I want to say that the Show Arab issue, I want to say that it's not only, the government should not only just stop there. I think they have to trace these people. Let's know these people. Then they should trace them. And we know that Show Arab, even if they exist, I think if you trace their origin is in Bornu. So if they have their sultan in Bornu, we can use it to trace them. Let's know if they exist here. Then if they exist here, we need to lay the record straight and bring those people so that they should explain themselves. But if we leave it like that, I can tell you that they can try again. So we need to leave it on the board once and for all.
All right. Thank you.
Very much.
Thank you. Yes, your name and where you calling from? You're live on Politics Today. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning. What's your name?
This is Osafian Bewene from EDO here.
Okay, Osafian Bewene, go ahead.
Even before I go to know about this Show Arab thing, I have a situation where I've been raising alarm over sites that I've been seeing around the local environment. How on daily basis, if you can count countless, like more than 10, 20 trailer loads of cows and brethren from these northern parts. So it's been so worrisome, as if a situation where people migrate does not have control any longer. Now, with what is now coming up, it's like there's already a kind of spark or fire from somewhere that needs to be contained.
Okay.
Because it speaks of a kind of danger that has to really be not just a mere say word, but tackled for the safety of Edolites.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We've got our last call now before we call it a wrap on the program. Hello, caller. Tell us your name and where you're calling from. Good morning. Yes, good morning. What's your name? Yes, good morning. What's your name?
My name is John. Please speaking from Benin.
John, speak up a little bit so we can hear you better.
Yes, please. Thank you very much for your analysis.
Thank you.
Well, let us just go home. For me to be brief. You know, in Nigeria, there are some tribes that are more callous than the Afghanistan. Those who are dictating for separation, they are more callous than the Afghanistan. For example, if you look at the map of Biafra covering those states and all parts of the east and the delta, you can see the agenda there is very, very dangerous. Please, we have to be very, very careful because they are more callous people, tribes in Nigeria than those in Afghanistan. Give them to, like the Civil War. The Civil War was planned more than 5 years before it broke out. So there are enemies within us here. So that's what I want to say. So I don't want to say about Swara, Sokoto. Those are not the
Okay, well, this issue that you raised now is not really tangential to our conversation, except you are saying that these guys are also dangerous. Yeah, also dangerous. Yeah, okay. All right. All right, thank you. Well, that's the much we can take on the phone segment. But let's get final words from our panelists, particularly from the reactions coming from our viewers and listeners via the telephone contributions. Let me begin with you, Chris.
Yes, you see, my happiness is the way Edo people are reacting. It's a very enlightened state, and you can't pull wool over our eyes. I just want more and more people to be conscious of this. And I align perfectly with everyone, starting from my co-discussant who said, further actions must be taken, and investigation must be carried thoroughly to the end, because we are going to have to make that statement that we are not papering over this at all. We want decisive action taken on that front.
Okay, I also heard someone say, look, some of the community heads in Nogues, John Were's, they're also culpable in this access to lands in some of these communities, which is giving some sort of foothold to some of these people. Yes, Nabil.
Well, I agree with what that caller said when he was talking about how the strategic locations in the city and part of Benin are being given to people who are non-indigenous, who will also know that they are likely to constitute security risk at any beck or call. Well, be that as it may, this is a wake-up call to our leaders and our government. And as I said, apart from declaring them persona non grata, the government should immediately hold meetings with indigenous Islamic people in Edo State, Edo people that are Muslims, their leaders across the senatorial district. Government should also meet with non-indigenous and their leaders, and especially those that are Muslims among them, and read riot act to them about any attempt to undermine the constituted government, legally constituted government of Edo State, and the well-entrenched tradition of our people. Okay. The government should also engage the youth in all the local governments of the state, whether they are going to be giving them a monthly stipend, and make them to be part of a vigilant group that can be reporting on a daily or weekly basis to government about activities of the movement of people across the state. Because I listened to somebody who called just now from this neighborhood who was talking about trailer load of people being brought to the state, trailer load of cars being brought to the state, and it seems as if the influx of people to this state is not controlled, and that is a danger sign for conflict. Okay. So I call on the government of Nigeria, whether now or later, not to subscribe to any religious ideology that will destroy this country, whether it is a Christian religious ideology or Muslim religious ideology. They should not subscribe to it, because there are countries of the world that are being controlled by radical leaders, whether Muslim or non-Muslims, because the Chinese government of that Xi Jinping is a radical government that silence, dissect, and opposition. Okay. We are seeing it in Hong Kong, Taiwan. We are seeing it in Uyghur and Xinjiang region of the country. This is a country that manufactures weapons of destruction, and using the devil's theory of political analysis, is exporting these weapons to groups and countries that are in conflict. So our country should not subscribe to that kind of ideology. Otherwise, a day will come that we will not have a country that we call our own, if care is not taken.
All right, thank you very much, gentlemen. Of course, the State Youth Wing of the Christian Association of Nigeria, CAN, has given a press release with the caption, "Enough is enough. We say no to the coronation of Sultan in Edo State." The statement was signed by Reverend Philaroje, who is the State Youth CAN chairman. Well, that's our package for today. Nabil Obagedo, thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Christopher Ojekere, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
And to everyone that made it sure his success, particularly you at home listening or watching, thank you for being a part of it. Have a great weekend. Bye for now.